The fluorescent lights in the HR office buzzed with that dull, nervous hum you only notice when your whole world is falling apart. Marcus Reed stood there, shoulders heavy, breath shallow, staring at the bold black letters printed across the top of the page. Termination of employment. The paper felt strangely warm in his hand, almost like it had absorbed the panic radiating through his skin. 35 years old, 8 years at the company, a spotless record. And now, a single accusation claiming he caused a catastrophic server crash worth nearly $200,000. No hearing, no second chance, no mercy. It has confirmed the logs, the HR manager said, using that stiff, overly polite tone people use when they don't want to look you in the eye. I'm sorry, Marcus, but this decision is final. Marcus didn't argue. What was the point? He had tried explaining, calmly, logically, desperately, that he hadn't even been near the main server room that afternoon. But the more he spoke, the faster they shut him down, like a man trying to hold back a flood with bare hands. He swallowed hard and reached for the cardboard box they'd given him, a couple of framed photos, a cracked coffee mug, a stack of sticky notes Ava had doodled on. His entire work life reduced to a dozen sad little items. And then, through the narrow glass panel on the office door, he saw her, Ava, 6 years old, brown pigtails, pink backpack nearly as big as she was. Standing in the hallway with that bright, sparkly smile kids always have when they think something good is about to happen. She waved at him, excited, innocent, completely unaware that the ground had just collapsed under their feet. Marcus's throat tightened, hard. He pushed open the HR door, trying to force a smile that felt like it was stitched onto his face. Ava skipped toward him, her tiny sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. "Daddy, are we going to get ice cream now?" she asked, eyes glowing with hope. And that was the moment, right there, that broke him. Not the firing, not the humiliation, but the look on his daughter's face, filled with trust he no longer knew if he deserved. He knelt, pulled her close, and whispered, "Not yet, sweetheart. We have to figure out something first." The hallway suddenly felt colder, sharper, like Seattle itself was holding its breath. Because neither of them knew it yet, but this ordinary Thursday afternoon was about to change everything. Marcus tightened his grip on Ava's hand as they walked down the long hallway, trying to keep his breathing steady. His heart felt like a heavy, uneven drum in his chest. Loud enough he wondered if Ava could hear it. Employees glanced up from their open laptops, whispering behind glass partitions. Everyone knew. The embarrassment stung like icy rain against warm skin. Just when Marcus thought things couldn't get any worse, a pair of sharp heels clicked against the tile floor. Measured, confident, unmistakably in charge. Rachel Turner, the company's CEO, approached from the opposite end of the hall. Tall, composed, wrapped in a charcoal suit that looked like it had been tailored by someone who understood power, she moved with a calm, magnetic certainty. Marcus kept his eyes down, hoping she'd pass without noticing. CEOs didn't stop for guys like him, especially not on days like this. But then she did. She slowed, stopped, studied the scene in front of her. A black father holding a cardboard box full of shattered pride, and a little girl trying to hold on to his hand and his hope at the same time. Something shifted in her expression, a flicker of concern, sharper than sympathy, almost instinctive. "What happened?" Rachel asked, her voice low but firm. The HR manager, suddenly nervous, stepped forward. "Ms. Turner, there was a server issue. Rachel held up a hand, silencing him instantly. Her eyes didn't leave Marcus. "Is this true?" she asked quietly. Marcus opened his mouth, but before he could speak, Ava did. "He didn't do anything bad," she said, her small voice trembling, but brave. "Daddy was with me." Rachel blinked, once, slowly, and whatever she saw in that child's trembling honesty made her straighten with him. She reached forward, took the termination letter from Marcus's box, scanned it quickly, then looked up with a decisive calm that felt like the A. And for the first time that day, Marcus felt something he thought he'd run out of. A tiny frar. Rachel led Marcus and little Ava down a quieter hallway, far from the buzzing offices and curious stares, until they reached a small conference room tucked behind frosted glass. She opened the door and gestured for them to step inside. The room was modest by corporate standards. A round table, 4 chairs, a whiteboard still smudged with half-erased notes, and a soft humming vent overhead. But to Marcus, it felt like a different planet, one where he wasn't immediately labeled guilty. Sit. Marcus lifted Ava onto a chair, then sat beside her. His hands trembled slightly and he clasped them together. Rachel placed the termination letter on the table between them. The crisp paper looked strangely out of place. Too cold, too official, too final. I want you to tell me what happened, she said, leaning in with a calm, investigative focus. Not the version written in a report. Your version. Marcus hesitated. For 8 years he'd worked hard, kept his head down, avoided trouble. Men like him, black, working class, raising a daughter alone, didn't usually get second chances. Opening up felt dangerous, but Ava was watching him, her wide brown eyes full of trust. So he breathed in, slow and shaky. I didn't touch that server room, he said. I was downstairs. Ava had a fever that morning. I couldn't get anyone to watch her. I know bringing her here wasn't ideal, but I couldn't risk losing another day. Not when rent's due. Not when it's just us. Rachel nodded, not with pity, but with understanding. Keep going. I set her up with my tablet, Marcus continued. We were drawing cats. That's when everything happened. Ava nodded emphatically. 3 cats, she whispered. I drew 3. Rachel's expression sharpened. Not hard, but focused, analytical. She opened her laptop, tapping quickly, cross-checking something unseen. When you say you were downstairs, she asked, what time exactly? 2:30, maybe a little after. Rachel looked at the screen, then back at him, her eyes now holding a spark of certainty. Then something about this report, she said, tapping the paper, is very, very wrong. And for the first time, Marcus felt the weight on his chest shift. Just slightly, like the beginning of a door being unlocked. Rachel's fingers moved across her keyboard with quick, purposeful motions. The soft glow of the laptop screen reflected in her eyes. Sharp, steady, and unmistakably determined. Marcus watched her, unsure whether to feel hopeful or terrified. For the past 3 days, he'd been treated like a problem. Now suddenly, someone was treating him like a puzzle worth solving. Marcus, she said without looking up, your badge scanned at sub-level 2 at 2:31 p.m. That's right, he replied. I didn't leave until after 3. Rachel turned the laptop so he could see the timestamp. And the system crash happened at 2:32 p.m., she continued, meaning you'd have to be in 2 places at once. Ava gasped the way only a child could, dramatically and adorably. Daddy can't do that. He's not magic. Marcus felt a half-laugh slip out, soft and tired. Rachel wasn't laughing. Her expression grew more intent, as if several invisible pieces were clicking into place. She pulled up a grainy security video. The frame showed the server room, sterile, brightly lit, and a blurry figure sitting at workstation 7. The person wore a dark jacket. Marcus's uniform, folded neatly in his box, was light blue. This isn't you, Rachel said quietly. No, Marcus breathed. It's not. She switched to another screen, an internal access log filled with precise digital timestamps. One entry blinked suspiciously in red. Unauthorized credential use. Rachel tapped it. Someone logged into the system using your credentials 3 days before the crash. Marcus stared, stunned. Why would anyone... That, Rachel said, closing the laptop with a soft but decisive click, is exactly what I intend to find out. A moment of stillness followed, charged, fragile, almost electric. Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in days, the faint but undeniable rise of hope pushing through his exhaustion. Rachel stood. Stay here with Ava. I need to pull some files. Then she added, her voice lower, resolute. Marcus, this doesn't look like negligence. It looks like sabotage. And just like that, the story he thought had ended was suddenly opening again. Page by page, truth by truth. The conference room felt strangely quiet after Rachel left. Too quiet, almost like the air itself was waiting. Marcus sat stiffly in his chair, hands clasped, eyes unfocused. The weight of the past few days, fear, anger, shame, pressed into his shoulders like a heavy winter coat he couldn't shrug off. Beside him, Ava swung her feet gently, humming under her breath, completely unaware that her small voice, soft and sweet, had already shifted the direction of an entire investigation. After a few minutes, she tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Daddy? He looked down. Her big brown eyes were steady, thoughtful in a way that always reminded him she was far more observant than most adults gave her credit for. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked quietly. The question pierced him. "No, baby, not even close." Marcus pulled her onto his lap, hugging her tight. "You just told the truth. And sometimes, the truth changes everything." Ava rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat with the calm innocence only children possess. "We were drawing cats," she whispered. "3 cats. The last one had a crooked tail because your phone kept buzzing." Marcus smiled, soft, aching. He remembered every detail, her warm little shoulder against his arm, her careful, concentrated frown, the scratchy crayons. The moment the phone lit up with frantic calls. "That's important," he murmured. The door clicked open. Rachel stepped back into the room, carrying a thick folder and a new look in her eyes. Focused, energized, almost fierce. A woman who'd found something worth fighting for. "Ava," she said gently, "can I ask you one more question?" The girl nodded, fearless. "When Daddy's phone started ringing that day, do you remember how long you'd been drawing?" Ava held up 3 fingers. 3 cats long." Rachel exhaled, a quiet, triumphant breath. "That's what I needed," she said. Then she looked at Marcus, her voice steady and certain. "You weren't anywhere near that server, and now I can prove it." And for the first time, the room didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt like the beginning of a breakthrough. Rachel laid the thick folder on the conference table, the weight of it landing with a soft but meaningful thud. She remained standing, shoulders squared, expression sharpened with purpose, while Marcus felt Ava curl against his side, sensing the tension rising again. "I've been reviewing access logs, workstation reports, and the internal investigation file," Rachel began, "and a pattern is emerging." Marcus nodded slowly, unsure whether he was ready for what came next. Rachel flipped open the folder. On the top page was a name highlighted in bold. Dylan Shaw, a co-worker. A man who'd barely spoken to Marcus except for stiff hallway nods and the occasional forced small talk at the coffee machine. Someone Marcus never considered a friend, but never imagined a threat. Rachel tapped the name with her finger. He accessed the server room at 2:28 p.m., 4 minutes before the crash. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. "But why would he?" Rachel continued, voice calm but edged with steel. "3 days before the incident, someone signed into our network using your credentials. The login came from a personal laptop, the same model Dylan uses. And there's more." She pulled out a printed email thread. Dylan discussing the opening for a senior position, the same promotion Marcus applied for and quietly lost. Ava whispered, "Is that the bad guy?" Marcus swallowed hard. "I don't know yet, sweetie." But deep down, pieces were falling into place with uncomfortable clarity. Rachel sat at last, leaning forward. "Marcus, I think Dylan wanted you out of the way. Maybe he didn't expect the damage to be this big, but the intent is there." The room felt colder now, not hostile, just heavy with truth. "I need to confirm a few details," Rachel said. "Then I'll speak to him directly." Marcus looked at the folder, then at Rachel. "Why are you doing all this?" he asked quietly. Her answer came simply, without hesitation. "Because someone used my company to hurt an innocent man, and I don't let injustice go unchallenged." For the first time in a long time, Marcus felt seen, fully, unmistakably seen. Rachel didn't waste time. Within the hour, she summoned Dylan Shaw to a private meeting room on the executive floor. The room was pristine, glass walls, immaculate white table, a skyline view that usually impressed everyone who stepped inside. But Dylan barely noticed any of it. He walked in with a nervous smile, confused but trying to look confident. "Miss Turner, you wanted to see me?" Rachel nodded and gestured to a chair across from her. "Sit." The tone made Dylan's smile twitch. She placed the folder between them like it was a quiet ticking clock. "Dylan, I've been reviewing the system crash from Tuesday." His posture stiffened, just enough for Rachel to notice. "I understand you were in the server room shortly before the incident," she continued. Dylan cleared his throat. "Routine check. Cooling issues. You know how it is." "Interesting," Rachel replied calmly, "because the maintenance report shows no cooling problems that day. None at all." A flicker of panic flashed in his eyes. Rachel leaned forward, her voice steady and razor-focused. "I also traced unauthorized access to Marcus Reed's credentials, straight back to a personal laptop assigned to you." For a moment, Dylan didn't breathe. That's impossible. Maybe it made a mistake." "It doesn't make this kind of mistake," she cut in. The room thickened with silence, heavy and unforgiving. Then Dylan cracked. His shoulders slumped, and his carefully polished confidence dissolved into something raw and desperate. Look, I just, I needed that promotion, he blurted out. Everyone said Marcus was the front runner, and he's always so perfect. I just wanted him written up, not fired. I didn't know the system would crash that bad. Rachel's expression didn't change, but something cold settled behind her eyes. You sabotaged company equipment, she said quietly. You framed a single father, someone who was barely holding his life together, and you didn't care about the consequences. Dylan lowered his head, unable to speak. Rachel stood, signaling the meeting was over. Security will escort you out. Legal will take it from here. And for the first time since the investigation began, justice finally had a name. The following morning, Marcus stood in his small kitchen, the kind with slightly uneven linoleum tiles and a fridge covered in Ava's crayon masterpieces. The scent of maple oatmeal filled the room, warm and comforting, but his stomach was too tight with anxiety to enjoy any of it. Ava sat at the table kicking her feet, humming while drawing a lopsided cat on a sticky note. For the first time in days, her humming didn't sting Marcus's heart. It soothed it. Then his phone rang. He froze. The screen displayed a name he never expected to see again. Marcus, admin, Rachel Turner's office. His breath hitched. He answered. Hello, Mr. Reed, a calm professional voice said. Ms. Turner would like to meet with you this morning, as soon as you're available. Marcus gripped the countertop to steady himself. Is everything okay? There was a brief pause, gentle, almost reassuring. Yes, sir. She asked me to tell you it's important. He hung up and stared at the phone, overwhelmed by a mix of dread and fragile hope. Ava looked up from her drawing. Daddy, why do you look like that? Marcus knelt beside her. I have to go back to the office, baby. Her eyes widened. Are they still mad at you? He shook his head slowly. I don't think so. Ava slipped off her chair and wrapped her arms around his neck with a small, fierce hug. You tell the truth, she whispered. The truth always wins. Marcus swallowed the lump in his throat. I hope so. 20 minutes later, he walked through the company's gleaming glass doors, not as a man defeated, but as a man holding his breath, waiting to learn which direction fate would finally push him. And this time, every stare he passed wasn't cold or judgmental. They looked different, curious, respectful, ashamed even. The air felt lighter, almost like justice was getting ready to speak. When Marcus reached the executive floor, he felt like he'd stepped into a different world. Quiet carpets, soft lighting, walls lined with abstract paintings that probably cost more than his monthly rent. The elevator doors slid shut behind him with a muted chime, leaving him alone in a hallway he never imagined walking through again. Rachel's assistant, a neatly dressed young man named Connor, greeted him with a polite nod. Mr. Reed, she's expecting you. Connor opened the glass door to Rachel's office, and Marcus stepped inside carefully, almost reverently. The room was bright, framed by tall windows overlooking the gray Seattle skyline. Rachel stood near her desk, not in her usual confident stance, but in a posture that felt thoughtful, human. Marcus, she said softly, thank you for coming. He swallowed hard. You asked for me. Yes. Rachel gestured to a chair, and he sat, back straight, palms pressed together. She didn't sit right away. Instead, she reached for a thin stack of documents on her desk. I want to start by saying something I should have said the moment I saw that termination letter. She met his eyes. I'm sorry. The words landed with unexpected weight, gentle, sincere, and unexpectedly healing. Rachel continued, her voice clear but filled with regret. You were wrongfully terminated. Our internal process failed you, and that failure allowed someone else's dishonesty to destroy your reputation. Marcus blinked, stunned. He had dreamed of hearing those words, but never from her, from the person whose decision could reshape his life. She handed him a document, reinstatement, full clearance of all accusations, back pay. But Rachel wasn't done. I also reviewed your performance history, she said, sitting across from him now. You were consistently one of our most reliable technicians. You should never have been overlooked. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Rachel took a breath, steady and purposeful. So I'd like to offer you something else. Something you earned a long time ago. She slid a final paper across the table. A promotion, senior systems specialist. For a moment, Marcus couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Everything he had fought to keep, his dignity, his stability, his place in this world, was suddenly being handed back to him, only this time with respect. For a long moment, Marcus just stared at the promotion letter, the bold title Senior Systems Specialist glowing back at him like something from someone else's life. He had imagined this moment once, years ago, before bills piled up, before Ava started preschool, before life turned into a constant juggle of responsibility and exhaustion. But he'd buried that dream quietly, thinking it belonged to another version of himself. Now it was sitting right in front of him. "Rachel," he finally whispered, barely trusting his voice. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," she replied gently. "Just know this isn't charity. It's recognition. Something you should have received long before now." Her tone wasn't soft the way people speak when they're pitying. It was steady, respectful, like she saw him not as a man who'd been broken by the system, but as a man who had survived it with integrity intact. Marcus blinked hard, willing the sting behind his eyes to disappear. I was scared," he admitted. "For my job, for my daughter. I didn't have anyone to fight for me." Rachel nodded, her expression shifting. Something warmer, almost protective. "You have someone now," she said. "You have this company, and you have me. At least until we make this right, fully and publicly." Marcus exhaled a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. A long, tired breath that felt like it had been trapped in his chest since the moment he walked into HR with his world collapsing. "So, I get my job back?" he said with a small, shaky smile. Rachel returned the smile, calm, grounded, reassuring. "You get more than your job back," she said. "You get your dignity back, your reputation back. And if you accept the promotion, your future back too." Marcus looked down at the paper again. The words felt heavy and bright all at once. For the first time in days, maybe in years, he felt the quiet, steady rise of confidence replacing fear. And in that sunlit office overlooking Seattle, the path forward finally began to look possible. When Marcus stepped out of Rachel's office, the world felt different. Lighter, steadier, almost unreal. His legs carried him down the hallway on instinct, but his mind was still in that office, replaying every word she had said. Reinstated, respected, promoted. Words he never thought would belong to him again. He reached the lobby where Ava sat in the designated family area, coloring with fierce concentration. She looked up the moment she heard his footsteps. "Daddy," she squealed, running toward him with her arms wide. He lifted her easily, breathing in the familiar scent of her coconut hair oil and crayons. It was grounding, comforting, real. "Did they fix it?" she asked against his shoulder. Marcus kissed the top of her head. "Yeah, baby, they did. They really did." Ava grinned, then suddenly wriggled out of his arms. "Wait, I made something!" She ran back to the little table, grabbed a slightly wrinkled sheet of paper, and rushed it over to him with proud excitement. 3 figures drawn in bright crayon strokes, a tall man with warm brown skin, a little girl with pigtails, and a woman in a gray suit with kind eyes, all holding hands under a bright yellow sun. "That's you," Ava said, pointing. "And me. And that lady who helped you. I made it for her." Before Marcus could respond, a soft voice spoke behind them. "Is that for me?" Rachel stood a few steps away, her expression gentle, surprised but deeply touched. Ava ran to her without hesitation and held up the drawing. Rachel knelt to accept it, studying the childlike shapes with a softness Marcus hadn't seen before. "This is beautiful, Ava," she said. "I'm going to hang it in my office." "Really?" Ava's eyes sparkled. "Really," Rachel replied. Marcus watched them, his daughter trusting without fear, Rachel kneeling without ego, and felt something shift quietly inside him. Something hopeful, something healing. This wasn't just the end of a nightmare. It was the beginning of a new story he didn't even know he was allowed to dream about. As Marcus, Ava, and Rachel stood together in the lobby, something soft and unspoken hung in the air. An emotional warmth that felt strangely new, yet deeply familiar. The building's morning light poured through the tall glass windows, washing over them in calm golden tones, as if Seattle itself had decided to give this moment a quiet blessing. Rachel rose from her kneeling position and handed the drawing back to Ava for safekeeping until she could frame it properly. "That picture," she said, "reminds me why we fight for what's right. Even when the system fails, people don't have to." Marcus nodded, his voice thick. "Thank you for believing me, for believing us." Rachel shook her head gently. "No, Marcus, you earned this. Your work, your honesty, the way you love your daughter, none of that deserved what happened to you." Ava reached out and took both their hands, linking them together with innocent certainty, like she'd solved a puzzle grown-ups were too slow to see. "Now we're all okay," she said simply. The three of them walked toward the exit, Ava skipping between them, Marcus carrying a folder with his new job offer, Rachel carrying the weight of someone who had chosen justice over convenience. When they stepped outside, the cool Seattle air felt different, brighter, cleaner, the kind of air that makes you close your eyes for a second and think, maybe life really can turn around. Marcus stood still for a moment, watching the sunlight catch on Ava's hair as she twirled in her little sneakers. Then he turned to Rachel. "You changed our lives," he said quietly. "I don't think I'll ever be able to repay that." Rachel smiled. Not the polished corporate smile she used in boardrooms, but something softer, unguarded, full of genuine humanity. "Just do the same for someone else one day," she replied. "That's all the repayment the world ever really needs." Marcus felt something settle inside him, an anchoring sense of hope he hadn't felt in years. He squeezed Ava's hand, letting the moment sink in, savoring the rare feeling of a fresh start. As Rachel walked back into the building and Ava tugged eagerly at his sleeve, Marcus breathed in deeply, the clean, crisp air filling his chest with possibility. Sometimes life breaks you, sometimes people fail you, but sometimes, if you're lucky, someone steps in at the exact moment you're falling, and they don't let you hit the ground. And that kind of kindness, it can change everything. If you were Marcus, would you have had the strength to keep fighting? Or would you have given up when nobody believed you? Share your thoughts below. Your perspective matters. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another inspiring story. Your support helps us bring more healing, heartfelt moments to life.